All right, so today we're going to talk about how to get back on track with your fitness and your healthy eating after you've gone off track, either because of an injury or because you simply made a bad decision that led you astray from the ultimate goal that you wanted to be, which was, again, to be fit and healthy. So it can happen for two reasons. I'll share one from my personal experiences. One is because of stress, because of a potentially bad relationship with food or a bad relationship with exercise. You know, maybe you go to the gym, you do a workout, you're on a roll, you're doing really well, and then life gets busy and then you miss a training session. And then what happens is you beat yourself up, and that leads you to potentially miss another training session. And next thing you know, it's been a few days, and then a week, and then a month. And the next thing you know, you're waiting for the next year's resolution to get back on track. When it comes to your nutrition, you can have all the best intentions in the world, have your food prepped in your fridge and ready to rock. But you just need one stressful day at work or one bad day where you choose to treat yourself, which leads you to eat some foods that potentially you know aren't the best for you. And then for you to beat yourself up to then continue to eat the bad food and be like, you know what? I already messed up, so let's just continue eating this way. Next Monday, I'll get back on track. But then you keep eating like crap until you get to next Monday. And then guess what? On Monday, potentially you restart, but then you potentially slip up again because of a stressful day, or you beat yourself up from the previous mistake that you've made. So in this scenario, the main thing that happens is every time you miss a workout or have a bad meal, the component that leads you to continue to go off track is that you beat yourself up. One thing that we tell our members is to win the next meal and win the next workout. So if on Friday night you eat 4,000 calories of pizza, guess what? On Saturday, eat your breakfast. Go back to eating your regular healthy food. Don't beat yourself up. Don't try to compensate by cutting more calories or trying to do more exercise. It's only going to lead you to a vicious cycle that's going to lead you to build an unhealthy relationship with food and unhealthy relationship with exercise. It's going to be the same thing for your workout. If you miss a workout because your life is busy, realistically, you're probably training 3, 4, maybe 5 days a week, which means that you have 2, 3, or 4 days of other days where you're not working out, where you can move your workout to another day. So if you can't train on Wednesday, don't worry about it. Move it to Thursday and then do your workout at that point, or move it to Friday. You have some wiggle room in there. So the worst thing you can do is to beat yourself up. Now, the other component, it can be from injury. Potentially you've been out because you've injured, your back, your knees, or whatever it may be. So I'm just gonna share my personal experience with this. I'm a few weeks post-concussion in recovery. I was training for a professional basketball scouting event, and I trained for 3.5 months, really intensely, 3 to 4 hours per day, 6 days per week in preparation for this event. And then it was going well, and I did a whole video on that, but basically ended up getting hit in the face, got a concussion, got 4 stitches, which you can't see too much of at this point. But then I was out of the gym for a full 2 weeks. I couldn't lift weights. It was hard to kind of dribble a basketball because it was overwhelming my brain. It was hurting my head. So I literally had to take a full 2 weeks of rest. And I just recently got back into the gym to lift some weights and to run and start to train for basketball again. And it has been absolutely brutal. So I considered myself to be in elite shape after that 3.5 months when I got to the Las Vegas event. And after only 2 weeks of being off, I feel completely out of shape. I feel like I've never ran in my life. My lung capacity completely went down compared to what it was before. I get out of breath just dribbling the ball and sprinting to one end of the court to the point where I'm almost going to puke. When previously I could play, 2, 3 games back to back and be absolutely fine. My strength training declined by 30 to 40% on my lift, but here's the thing, it can be very defeating to look at that and have that sensation in your body where your lungs are burning, the weights are feeling heavy, even though you know they're light. And that's when a lot of people quit because they tell themselves, I used to be fit back in the day. I used to run marathon, or I used to play basketball or soccer, but I no longer am in that shape. And they think about getting back to that place and they realize how far it actually is. But here's the reality. Your body has some muscle memory. If you've been in shape at some point in your life, your body will remember regardless of how long it's been. If you've been able to do it once, you'll be able to do it again because you already have the willpower to do it. You just need proper accountability and proper structure to be able to get to that place. How do you get to the place where you're feeling out of shape, you don't feel strong, you don't have a high cardiovascular capacity? You just take it one day at a time and one training at a time. It's going to suck until it doesn't anymore. There's always going to be that point where you kind of get over that hump and fitness starts to become fun again. That also applies for people that are newer to exercising. When you're newer to it, the muscles aren't necessarily connecting and firing properly. They're going to be really achy. That's how I feel right now. I am so achy everywhere in my body because I did my first strength training yesterday and then my first intense basketball training session this morning, and I'm completely wiped. And to a certain extent, yesterday, I was a little bit discouraged. I was like, I can't believe that I can't sprint back and forth on the court and not feel like I have to puke. It's only been 2 weeks off after 3.5 months of intense training. So what that tells me, and it tells you guys, is that it doesn't take a lot to get out of shape, but it does take a lot to get into shape. And I always like to use this little analogy of, look at it at a level, for example. So a lot of people are starting from 0, or maybe they've been fit at some point, but they're a little bit further from where they were. There's always a point where as you go up in level of cardiovascular health and in strength and fitness, there's that little zone, and that zone completely sucks. Once you get through it, that's when your muscles are burning, they're aching more, your lungs are completely on fire. For those of you that have done some type of endurance sport or higher cardiovascular sport, it's the point where when you're taking a big breath, you feel like you're only accessing 80% of your lungs. But for those of you that have been in really great shape from a cardiovascular standpoint, when you get to that point, you know you can take like a big breath and access 100% of your lungs and just feel like you can take in so much air. I'm back down to right before that sucky zone where I feel like I only have access to 80% of my lungs. Again, not statistically, but that's how it feels like. When I'm taking a big breath, I don't feel like I can take in as much air as I used to 2 weeks ago when I was at peak condition. So there's always this little sticky phase that you have to go through. That is when most people quit, because like my lungs are burning, it's uncomfortable, I'm achy, I'm tired all the time. But your body's a great adaptation machine. If you continue to push through that zone, eventually you'll get to the other side where you feel like you have that strength, that connectivity in your muscle, where you feel like you have that cardiovascular health, and then you feel in shape. At that point, the soreness doesn't go away. You're still sore, but you're in such a good mental space and your body's such in a good space that it starts to become fun. You learn to embrace the level of soreness a little bit. You learn to embrace the lungs burning because you're able to push yourself that much more, and it's not to a level where it's discouraging. To me, to run back and up and down the court is discouraging at this point. I'm like, man, my lungs are burning. So when I'm training with my coach, I understand that I have to push myself in my training sessions, but I tell him I stop right before I puke, because just from previous experience, if you puke, then you're completely wiped out of energy because you have no food in your body. So I stop right before, and then I go push again, and I stop right before. But that's just my own mindset when it comes to getting back to that elite place that I want to. So if you're dealing with setbacks, understand that there's gonna be this sticky part that you're gonna have to go through, where it's gonna suck more than usual, where it's gonna feel uncomfortable. And that's why most people quit, and why most people end up being overweight and being out of shape. Which again, it's not just about looking a certain way or feel a certain way, but they're shortening their lifespan. They're shortening the years in their life, but also the quality of the years in their life. And they won't be able to do some of the activities or things that they want to do as a part of their life experience. They might not be able to go on that hiking trip with their family or that cycling trip with some friends. So you want to be able to have a body that is fit, mobile, and then you have the energy to be able to enjoy a good quality of life for many years. So that is how you handle with setbacks. Just understand mentally 2 things. One, you're going to go through that sticky zone, and then just learn to push through it. And then the second thing, like I've shared, if you have a stressful day at work and you miss your workout and your nutrition, to learn to not beat yourself up, because that's what's gonna make the biggest difference in how fast you get back on track, so that you can work yourself through that sticky zone and get on top of it so that you actually feel fit and healthy. Now, there's no necessarily look associated to you getting to that point, because that's gonna be tied to your nutrition. But once you feel fitter and healthier, you're more likely to be compliant with your nutrition, because you're putting so much effort into the gym that you want to fuel your body properly. All right, so I hope this video was helpful. I understand it's a little bit all over the place. I'm still recovering from my concussion a little bit. I do have a harder time keeping track of some of my thoughts, so hopefully it made sense. Hopefully it was helpful. I will have created a guide for you guys to help you get back on track as fast as possible with some of the tools and strategies that we share with our members. So if you look in the description, there will be a link for you to download that guide. You can look at it, you can print it and put it on your fridge. Whenever you're having a moment where you're in a slump or where you miss a workout and when you don't feel motivated, like you don't want to train, I highly invite you. It's gonna be my personal cheat sheet that I use when I feel this way. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you like these kinds of content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.